Hi, I'm Yannick Lefang, founder and CEO of Cassie Insight, Africa's most innovative research and advisory company, focusing on the African markets. We offer consumer survey, market insight, and data-driven advice to our clients.
Yannick, one of the big questions for people when they look at Africa from the outside, whether they're a telco, a broadcaster, whatever, is how big is the middle class and how do you define it?
Well, I think it's an interesting question since it's a very challenging question. So obviously we had different estimates that came out from the African Bank or the Standard Chartered Bank, all giving estimate based on income. We have a different view when it comes to the middle class in Africa. We think from our point of view, it's not just about income because income is very difficult to measure in Africa. I think it's about aspiration. And we basically did a study in-house to kind of assess whether we can define the middle class in a different way. And now from that estimate, how big is that middle class, in Africa? And, we're coming out with a range between 3 to 6%, depending on the countries. Obviously, again, it's not a one number fit all.
Yeah.
It would depend. And we also think that the middle class is fluid. So people go in and out of the middle class. And, the idea is to basically have a definition that fits the African context and basically have a way to track.
And in some countries it would be more than the 3 to 6%.
Absolutely.
And the other question is actually to do with, in a sense, willingness to pay and ability to pay and the relationship between those two. Everybody says these are price-driven markets.
Yes.
What's your take on that?
Well, I think my take on that is around value. I think any consumer, whether it's in Africa or outside of Africa, has to come to a value proposition where the consumer actually finds value. Now in Africa, granted, we don't have a big consumer, a big middle class, but it doesn't mean that we don't have people who are not willing to purchase. They are willing to purchase what they find valuable to them. So we did studies on mobile apps, for example, in Africa, where we found that local app developers were complaining about local people not downloading the apps. Well, guess what? It's not because your app is made in Africa that people are going to basically download it. No, if the apps is valuable to them, then they will basically download and then they will use it. So, I think, when you look...
What kinds of things were they saying that they found valuable?
So, going back to mobile, things that they found valuable, anything around health. So we did a gap analysis where we asked people, do you have health apps on your phone at the moment? And then would you pay for any health app? So we had a positive gap of 7%. So the difference between people who said that they have the health and then they want to buy was a positive 6%. Same idea for business-related apps, where the gap is even larger. So if you look at an app, as basic as a file-sharing app, well, guess what? It's very valuable for people in Africa. So that's why in the report we said, developers should resist the tendency of copying and pasting. Not because gaming apps are popular on Google Play or iTunes means that they will be popular in Africa. I think you have to look at the context. You have to look at what's valuable for people, for users. Then you basically have to bring that value to them, obviously at the proper price point.
And how does that value proposition work out in terms of devices, particularly things like smartphones or tablets, more high-end devices? How is value perceived there?
I think the more you look at high-end, obviously the more complex the usage is going to be. So a smartphone will be used as a computer, for example, where obviously people will do way more than just talk. On the smartphone, we look at financial services, you look in East Africa, and you look at media in terms of video content and whatnot. So as you go up the ladder, I would say in terms of the device, your value proposition or the usage is going to get more complex. But it doesn't mean that it's a one size fits all, because we also find that there are in certain countries clear segmentation, meaning it doesn't mean because a user has a smartphone that basically the smartphone is used for entertainment, meaning any content app you build is going to work. Because in some countries people see their smartphone first as a work-related item as opposed to an entertainment item. So when you build a product and you want to use that user, remember that again these people may not be inclined to download your content, your videos, and whatnot.
Contrast me two countries, one of which would use a smartphone for entertainment and one of which wouldn't, just to give me some sense of the personality of that.
And it may have to do with the samples and one of the big differences where, if you look at Ghana and you look at, let's say, Cameroon, for example, Ghana are very big on entertainment. Like you would see people, they view the mobile app, smartphone first as an entertainment tool, so content, video. And then we actually did Nigeria, but the data is not available yet. But it will be interesting to see also in Nigeria, how is it. But then you look at Cameroon, for example, where it's mostly a work tool.
Yes.
Entertainment is not as big. And Kenya, mostly a talk tool.
Yeah.
So basically people use the phone to communicate, and then for obviously working and using financial services and whatnot. So as you can see, you're looking at those segments, and they're not quite identical, even if you look at 3 countries already.
But it's worth saying, isn't it, that you should describe the samples.
Absolutely.
Because they're essentially urban samples.
Yes, they are urban samples. Again, we are looking here at really urban sample between 18 years old and 45 years old. So these are the active populations, people who are employed and self-employed. And in terms of gender allocations, usually, between 45 and 55 male and men. So we have, from that point of view, I think, a representation of the urban Africa.